Before we move on to item 5, I'd like to make a few remarks about the current situation in Israel and Gaza and the impact upon our borough and our local residents. Friends, we meet in dark times this evening. Hertsmere, as we know, is home to one of the UK's largest Jewish communities. So it's right and proper that we open this meeting this evening with some remarks about the situation in Israel and Gaza and about its impact upon our own local communities. I'll be inviting the other group leaders and members to add their own remarks afterwards. But first, I want to be clear and unequivocal. In recent days, we've witnessed one of the worst terror events in modern history, a mass anti-Semitic pogrom carried out by Hamas terrorists sponsored by Iran. Terrorists, not militants, not freedom fighters, plain and simple terrorists. I remember how the BBC described the Islamist beheaders of British soldier Lee Rigby, described them as terrorists. So like many local people who've copied me into letters to our MP over the past couple of days, I can't fathom why the BBC sees fit to use any other description at all. I choose my words carefully. That is why I'm calling this an anti-Semitic pogrom. The Islamist Hamas hunted Jews in southern Israel, burning them out of their houses, shooting, killing and abducting men, women and children. Hamas moved through towns and villages, slaughtering. Even babies were not spared. Over 250 people were massacred at a music festival for peace. The executions carried on for hours. Rape became a routine weapon of war. One victim was paraded semi-naked in the back of a Hamas pickup truck as militants sat on her and jeered. Other murdered women were stripped and paraded through the streets with cheering men crowding around to spit on them. An elderly female Holocaust survivor was dragged away by a Hamas terrorist whilst in her wheelchair. A Thai worker was hacked to death on camera. A terrified little Israeli boy shook as he was abused, knocked about and paraded before the cameras by his captors. Children were kidnapped. Canadian peace activists were abducted. And as we know, entire families were taken. And faced with this Hamas pogrom, how did some respond? In many cases, even ashamedly on our local social media groups in this area, it was cheered on as some kind of resistance. It was met with rationalisations, lawyerly defences, celebratory waving of flags in Bushey, and rallies not far from here in defence of the pogromists, the terrorists, Hamas. And that's why, against that backdrop, I'm incredibly proud of this council's response and the response of our wider local Hertsmere community. Our response around here has been rightly and properly a community-focused response, sensitive to local concerns, cognizant of the need to cultivate and foster positive relations across all of our local communities, designed to shine light through the darkness, bring people together and comfort those feeling the fear and the pain. Our police have been exemplary. On top of the threat, but equally importantly, on top of the chill factor that all of this has created locally, particularly with the rise of anti-Semitic incidents, extra resources, extra patrols, partnership work with the Community Security Trust. Chief Inspector Bilsden has been available to the leadership of this council at all times, working in partnership with us at every level. And I'll be speaking with Hertfordshire's Chief Constable Charlie Hall early tomorrow morning. Our partnerships and communities team have been amazing, working to provide reassurance and to keep information flowing across our key partners and around the community. I must also pay particular tribute to the council's corporate communications team, in particular Keely James, who's kept on top of a flood of media requests and coverage over the past few days, as well as critically ensuring that our corporate messages of reassurance reach the widest possible audience. Finally, huge thanks to our Managing Director, Sajida Bijlay, and our Head of Asset Management, Mark Perez, who worked swiftly to implement my late Sunday night instruction to fly the Israeli flag at half-mast and light up this building, together with many other public buildings around the country in blue and white. These arrangements will continue for the time being. Elstree and Boreham Wood Town Council have also played a critical role. They've maintained constant links with Boreham Wood's twin town of Shoham in central Israel. Together with Town Mayor Councillor Chalice, I've been in ongoing contact with the Mayor of Shoham and their councillors and know how deeply they value our solidarity and support. Now, in the past 24 hours, I've heard about local Jewish families afraid to take their babies to community activities, about kosher cafes in Boreham Wood reporting a huge downturn in custom due to the fear that their venues have become targets. And I've heard about families afraid to send their children to Jewish schools in the area. This situation must not, cannot and will not be allowed to prevail. To do so would be to fuel the hateful agenda of Hamas. Not allowing fear to set in communities like ours is part of the fight against terror. This council stands foursquare behind our local communities, and we will display the political and professional leadership that this moment requires. I fear that our community response work has only just started and will become more challenging as time goes on. I know that Councillor Gray and Councillor Rani are looking to convene an urgent meeting and briefing for key partners, faith and community leaders and senior officers to ensure that we're able to continue in the manner in which we've started. And critically, I want to stress that there are no party politics on these matters. All of us from across the political spectrum are working to reassure the community that we'll not allow the politics of hatred espoused by Hamas and Hezbollah to spill over onto the streets of Hertsmere. We were rightly represented by our civic office holders and councillors of all parties at vigils in Boreham Wood and Bushy last night. Everybody who supports a better future for Israel and the Palestinians knows that the depraved actions and hateful politics of Hamas and their supporters are part of the problem, not part of the solution. For now, we mourn the victims, pray for the return of those in captivity, and send the strongest possible message of solidarity to Israel, and we continue to work together to oppose those who seek to import this conflict from the Middle East onto the streets of Hertsmere.